Hi everyone, welcome to the Spinnaker India online meetup, July edition yet again. I think in July we are connecting for the second time. We couldn't do so earlier in June because all of us were busy in the event for us, and that is the Spinnaker India online, the Spinnaker Summit, and where I think almost 5,000 folks came around the community together on Spinnaker and CI/CD in general. So this for the folks who are joining us here for the first time, this is an initiative to bring together the community around Spinnaker, continuous delivery, and CI/CD under one platform, and in general DevOps as well, DevOps best practices. So welcome everyone. Again, my name is Shalin Swatantra. I take care of community engagement at OpsMX, and I'll be your host for today. And let me just acquaint you with the agenda for today. So we'll be having a quick poll after this. Post this, Abhinay would be taking us through. Abhinay is a senior DevOps engineer at OpsMX, and he would be taking us through the topic how to securely manage Spinnaker with Hashicorp Vault. I think the last topic, which was again done by Abhinay, was also well received, and we received great comments and engagement, which was Spinnaker integration with Terraform. So anybody who is joining from the last meetup, any questions, you're welcome to come up. I mean, we'll keep some time aside for a Q&A, but generally we keep these sessions very conversational. So feel free to put in your questions specifically in the Q&A section so that we don't miss out on any of the Q&A. You can do so in the chat as well, but sometimes we do miss that out in the chat section. Recordings would be anybody who is joining us today, and the folks who have RSVP'd, they would be anyway receiving the recording link post this. And otherwise, you can just go to OpsMX YouTube channel and you can grab the recording from there. Post this. One more thing for today, I just wanted to highlight for any folks. I see many people coming in and great people coming in from the DevOps community in general. So if you have any special talks or topics or any interesting things that you want to come and talk here on the platform, you're welcome to do so. I have put it in the paper call ID for the Spinnaker meetup. It has all our events and upcoming events. I think my net is slightly slow, so it's loading slightly slow, but I'll send you this link post the event as well. So anybody who's willing to join us as a speaker can come up there. For the folks who are joining here for the first time again, I would request you to join our group, meetup group, the Spinnaker India online meetup. You can do so by just Googling these three simple words, and you would be able to locate us. For any specific things, you can just all the specific queries or anything around Spinnaker, you can raise over the Meetup platform. Otherwise, you can continue the discussion with us. I am available on this email ID. Otherwise, both me and Abhinay are also there on the Spinnaker Slack channel. So with this, I think I'm gonna let me just stop sharing my screen and let me start the poll for today. And before that, let me just welcome Abhinay as a speaker. Yet again, he's been a regular and very helpful. He delves really deeply into Spinnaker, as our platform is based on Spinnaker and have interactions with multiple clients around the world. So he has his feet deep in this specific technology. Welcome, Abhinay.
Thank you, Shalin.
Okay, so let me just quickly initiate the poll. There are a couple of questions here. So one is around your continuous delivery usage for the folks um, who are joining us today. Please just, you would be seeing a poll on your screen right now. So the first question is, are you currently doing continuous delivery? If yes, just click on yes. Okay, I see the polls coming in, and if yes, what percentage of your production applications are using uh, for this? Okay, so I'm gonna give another 5 seconds before I end the poll. And okay, so yeah, I'm ending the polling. So okay, so I see some of the folks using continuous delivery. I think we have good amount of people who are using continuous delivery, but they are less than around 50% of them do so in for less than 10% of their production applications, and the rest do so for more than 50% of their organization. So for their applications, Abhinay. So that would be we have a good audience there. And second poll coming up, is your organization currently evaluating or using Spinnaker as a technology? So just feel free to uh, see, start putting the results here. I'm seeing the results, some of the results coming in. Okay, so okay, I see only 20% of people have voted. Can you guys all please vote? Okay, some of the folks are evaluating Spinnaker as well. Great, so I'm gonna give another 5 seconds and then close the polling and share the results with Abhinay and everyone. So, okay, so I think so around 25% of the folks today are evaluating Spinnaker, Abhinay. So that's a good sizable audience, and 75% are not evaluating or using Spinnaker, but definitely would love to know about more about Spinnaker as since they are here.
Okay.
So handing over to you, Abhinay, now.
Yeah.
Please go ahead with your presentation.
Thank you, Shalin. Let me just bring up my screen. Just a moment. I don't know, my Zoom is being really weird today. Yeah. Can you all see my screen?
Yeah, Abhinay came up.
Awesome. All right. So hello everyone. My name is Abhinay. I work as a DevOps engineer at OpsMX. My expertise is primarily into Spinnaker, Kubernetes, and other areas in the DevOps ecosystem. So yeah, thank you, Shalin, for that introduction. And today I wanted to talk about, we have been in the past, meetups, we have discussed how Spinnaker is making our job easier in the space of continuous delivery, and how Spinnaker is complementing tools like Kubernetes, and how Spinnaker is complementing Terraform in the area of, um, handling your infrastructure as part of pipeline itself. So I thought, let's explore how we can make use of HashiCorp's Vault as well. And
Abhinay, can you be slightly louder? There's a
sure,
comment.
sure, Shalin. Is it any better now?
Yeah, it's much better.
Okay, cool. Yeah. So yeah, so we thought why not leverage the potential of HashiCorp's Vault and securely manage Spinnaker, because we are lately we have seen that we are seeing that corporates and companies are leveraging the potential of Vault or any key value store that's present in cloud provider, and trying to make their systems as secure as possible. And Vault is one of those contenders, I would say. And just because there are a few people who are pretty new to Spinnaker and still in the phase of evaluating Spinnaker, let me also cover more on not just cover how we can use Vault and securely manage Spinnaker. I'll try to focus more on um, how Spinnaker can make software delivery seamless, and how Spinnaker can make it easier for us to construct pipelines and to deliver software without any human intervention. So this is a brief intro of OpsMex. I won't spend much time on this one because I don't want to make it, like I always say, I don't want to make it look like a marketing event. But yeah, so just so you know, I work for OpsMex, and we are into continuous delivery space, uh, delivering products around Spinnaker, and um, uh, other products are focused on building an intelligence layer on the top of your continuous delivery platform, be it Jenkins or Argo or any other tool. So yeah, so introducing Spinnaker. So I suppose at least few of you know that Spinnaker is a continuous delivery platform that's created by Netflix initially, and later on it was open sourced, and it's battle tested at Netflix and a couple of other companies like Google and Cisco, and all are the major contributors of Spinnaker and have been using Spinnaker for a while. And yeah, to tell you about Spinnaker, maybe I can go and show you how it looks like, how it is to like to use Spinnaker as a tool. Most of the frequently One of the frequently asked question is, I already have Jenkins. Why do I need to use Spinnaker? Is one of the frequently asked question. Whenever we talk to any prospect, right? That's one of the frequently asked questions. So I let me clarify that a bit, because as DevOps engineers or DevOps architects or people who are into software delivery or development, we are accustomed to using Jenkins, because Jenkins has been there for a while now. It's pretty old, and it's kind of first in the market. So we all have been, using Jenkins for a while, and because of its flexibility and extensibility, people started adding more plugins, and we decided to stick with Jenkins and do delivery as well. But yeah, I would initially show how Spinnaker differentiates from Jenkins or any other CD or CI tool for that matter, and make the job more easier. Okay. So Spinnaker is a multi-cloud deployment tool. When I say multi-cloud, it integrates well with off-the-shelf. It integrates well with all the major cloud providers out there, like GCP or Azure or AWS. And you don't have to really add any plugin or any other additional thing to, integrate Spinnaker with your cloud provider. You just need to plug in your credentials, and there you go. One of the things that I'm gonna cover in this talk is how do you plug in your cloud provider credentials into Spinnaker so that they are not stored anywhere on your repository, or they are not exposed to the outside world. So yeah, um, I'm not sure what's wrong with my PC today. Just give me a moment. Yep. Okay. So like I said, it integrates well with all the major cloud providers. Like, and if you look at Jenkins versus Spinnaker, right? Jenkins' job and at the deployment of the software itself. Jenkins doesn't really go beyond deployment. It will simply issue a kubectl -f and the manifest and get done with it. It doesn't really care what happens to the deployment or what happens to the resources that are created using that Jenkins job. But Spinnaker, let's say this specific pipeline in here, um, you know, the purpose of this specific pipeline in here is to do a Kubernetes deployment. All right. So when it does the Kubernetes deployment, it will also try to get the health of the deployment, saying it deploy, this is the YAML file that's deployed as part of this pipeline, and it will check if the deployment is available and stable. So that, and it continues to monitor. This is green because it's available and stable still. And this pipeline was triggered, like 8 hours ago. And all the pipelines that are under a specific application, all the resources that are deployed by various pipelines, you can visualize all of those things in a single dashboard, saying this is a deployment that's created by one of the pipelines, and there is one replica set, there is one pod in it, and which is in green state, and another pipeline deployed an ECS instance, and there is one ECS container that's running here under a server group, and in the similar way there is an EC2 instance that's created on AWS and in a specific VPC and in a specific zone, and this is the EC2 instance that's created there. So all the various kinds of resources, be it Kubernetes workloads or your GCP GC instance or your AWS EC2 instance or your Azure VM. So it doesn't matter to Spinnaker what kind of a workload it is. It's a workload. It's a deployment. That's it. And you can construct various kinds of hybrid pipelines and all that stuff using Spinnaker. So let's say if you look at the specific one, the purpose of this pipeline is to, looks like it failed, but yeah, the purpose of this pipeline is to, basically create an AMI, Amazon Machine Image, and deploy that AMI as an EC2 instance. So it's not just you are deploying an EC2 instance using the existing AMIs in your marketplace. You are creating an AMI from scratch and deploying that. All right. So basically, that's one of the use case of a Spinnaker. And if I were to show you how a hybrid pipeline would look like, in one of the previous talks, I was showing folks how yeah, Spinnaker, it's like a one-stop shop for your entire delivery pipeline. When I talk about delivery, I'm talking about developer checking in the code to the production deployment. So everything, you check in the code, you build the code, you will create artifacts, images, you'll perform various kinds of image scanning, sonar cube analysis, unit tests, you deploy it to your dev cluster. Then if you are satisfied, you might want to run functional tests. If you are done with it, you might want to deploy it to QA, then run a bunch of other tests, and so on and so forth till your production deployment. So you can orchestrate that entire flow in a single pipeline or in a group of pipelines visualized on a single dashboard. All right. So if I were to talk about the tools that are involved, all right, I have Aquasec doing the image scanning. I have SonarQube performing the static code analysis. I have JUnit running the unit tests. I have, what do you say, Terraform creating the infrastructure for dev and deploying it. I have, JMeter running my functional test suits. I have Jenkins build, because although Spinnaker is not meant to replace Jenkins, Spinnaker is meant to complement Jenkins. So when I say complement Jenkins, Jenkins is still the best build server. not just Jenkins. We do have a couple of other CI engines like Travis or Circle CI or TeamCity. These are all build servers. So Spinnaker is meant to complement those. All right. So I'm still using Jenkins for building my job because Jenkins does it very well. So I'm just using the Jenkins here, and we just need to put things together and construct a pipeline however we want according to our use case. All right. So in the similar way, I might want to run hybrid pipelines wherein, uh, I might want to deploy part of my application as an EC2 instance, and a couple of my microservices will be running on Kubernetes. So this is the use case for that. I'll bake the AMI, deploy an EC2 instance. Simultaneously, a couple of my microservices are running on Kubernetes. So I'll create the image, bake the Helm manifest. I'm using Helm as a baking engine. So for baking the AMI, I'll be using Packer, and that's all built into Spinnaker, by the way. We don't really need to plug in anything additionally. So I'll deploy, run bunch of test suites, and go on with it. I might want to create a Jira ticket if something goes wrong, or just to notify the users, or just for audit or tracking purpose. All right. So uh, that's a little bit about how a Spinnaker, can be used and make our CI/CD process more seamless and more robust. All right. So I'll focus on my today's topic, which is to integrate Spinnaker with Vault and manage your passwords or any credentials that you have more securely. All right. So I have Spinnaker running. I created this Spinnaker instance for this meetup, and this is my Spinnaker instance, and I also had set up a Vault instance for the same purpose. So I have Vault running in here, and let's say I want to integrate my Spinnaker with Jenkins, but Spinnaker is usually when you talk about enterprise version Spinnaker, right? You usually go with GitOps style, as in you keep all your configuration, Spinnaker configuration, in a S3 bucket or in a Git repository, or basically you externalize the configuration, and even the credentials. You don't want to put credentials in the configuration, right? Typically, I think people who are already familiar with Spinnaker would know this, wherein a Spinnaker configuration is handled by a microservice called Halyard. So on Halyard, you would see all the Spinnaker configuration under a directory called home Spinnaker. You would find all your Spinnaker configuration under a directory called Halyard. So usually what happens is any credentials, right? AWS credentials, whenever you want to integrate Spinnaker with AWS, you'll just enable it and provide your credentials, account details, and all that stuff in here. And in case you want to integrate with other providers like Azure or Jenkins, Azure or Jenkins, you will just give me a moment. I just want to drink some water. Yeah, sorry. So you'll just put in your credentials here in Azure, under Azure, and after you make some change, right, we will just do a hal deploy apply, so that Halyard will apply those changes to Spinnaker. All right. But now I want to look at an approach wherein I don't want to put in my credentials here. Typically what happens is this GitOps style configuration, right? When you do, what happens is when Halyard comes up, it will get the Halyard configuration from an external repository like Git repo or S3 bucket, and do a hal deploy apply. and then you will immediately destroy the Halyard pod, or you will immediately, delete your git rep or your Halyard configuration repo from the Halyard pod. All right. So what we need is, while doing the hal deploy apply, we want those credentials to be there in your config file. All right. So I have a Jenkins account configured in here. All right. I'll call it some my Jenkins server. This is a dummy server again. This is not real, but yeah. And there is my username and password. I just templatized my username and password, saying Jenkins username and Jenkins password. And my goal is to get these credentials from Vault and put it here and do a hal deploy apply. All right. So what I do is, I kept my credentials in here under Spinnaker Jenkins. There is my password, alpha user password, and there is my username called alpha user. So, and I just need to place these credentials into, what do you say, hal config file. All right. So what I did is, I don't want to get into details of how to configure your Vault server, so that you can enable this Kubernetes authentication with Vault. All right. So the prerequisite for this thing is, you need to enable what do you say, Kubernetes authentication in Vault, and you can simply get a blog written by one of our folks on how to integrate Vault with Kubernetes and enable. Sorry, looks like there is a power cut. Let me just stop my video. Okay. So yeah, this is one of the blogs out there on how to enable Kubernetes authentication in Vault, install it, and set up stuff. So I'll talk about how to fetch.
Hey,
once.
Abhinay,
Yeah.
Maybe if you can put the link, it would be helpful for the
Sure.
folks.
Sure. Oh, I see something. Okay. Fair enough. I see Arnab Chowdhury asking about X versus Y versus Z versus Spinnaker. Arnab, we already have blogs written on, Argo CD versus Spinnaker, Jenkins versus Spinnaker. So you'll find them on internet, or in
On the
case.
Optinex blog. Yeah, but
Yeah, or one of our.
Maybe we can have a session like that going forward.
Sure. Yeah,
That
sure.
would be-
We can cover that part too, because we have done a extensive comparison on Argo CD versus Spinnaker, where Argo CD wins and where Spinnaker wins. So yeah, we can do that. Not an issue. And okay, cool. So this is the one, and yeah, what I'm basically doing is, I'm getting the credentials. I'm injecting my credentials via Vault annotations. All right. So when I add these specific annotations to my Halyard pod, Halyard stateful set, what happens is, these credentials get injected into my pod. All right. And what I'm basically doing is, I'm exporting the Jenkins username and password that I got from Vault. And basically, I have added in a post start lifecycle hook in here. So what I'm basically doing in this post start lifecycle hook is, so whatever credentials that are exported to a file on the pod, Halyard pod, I'm sourcing that file and I'm simply replacing the credentials in the config file. And so what happens is, let's look at what would happen by simply restarting my pod. I'll just kill the pod so that a new pod comes up with new configuration and credentials get fetched from Vault and they are put into your Halyard configuration file. This is just an example on how you can externalize your credentials, put them in Vault and inject them into Halyard configuration. So for the same purpose, right, you can also, in the same way, you can also, externalize your kubeconfig files. And in fact, entire Halyard configuration can be put into your Vault store as a tarball, and you can get the tarball from Vault and unpack the tarball and configure and manage Spinnaker. So that's also possible.
Abhinay?
Yeah, I think it might take a while, and meanwhile, maybe I can cover a few other things.
Yeah, there is a question as well.
Okay.
Ranjit Jana asks,
Better functionality, but it has extremely complex infrastructure setup that is possible retardant for adoption. I understand one major difference between the class can poll and monitor the Jenkins cron based, but may not be event based. Yeah, true. And we have, as Charlene mentioned, right? Maybe I can talk about Enterprise Spinnaker that we are offering. So Enterprise Spinnaker, right? It makes the infrastructure setup so simpler. So just with the Helm chat, single click, you will get to configure Spinnaker with GitOps style HA enabled, all your configuration plugged into Spinnaker, URLs configured, SSL setup done, and you don't have to manually do anything. So it's just a single click Helm install. And all you will be doing is, before you install something, you'll just plug in your values into the values.yaml and install that chat. So that's, I understand. Initially, it's little complicated to understand how Spinnaker works, but yeah, we try to make it look like a black box and work as you expect it to behave, work. So, and yeah, there are a lot of use cases which are not addressed by other tools like Jenkins or GitLab or other tools. If you look at, as one of the audience was talking about Argo CD, maybe I can tell you this. Argo CD as a just Kubernetes deployment tool, it's really good. But Argo CD as an entire delivery tool, no, it cannot. Argo CD might be able to do GitOps style Kubernetes deployments or deployments using Helm chat, but I don't think Argo CD is addressing any problem around orchestrating your end-to-end pipeline. All right. So yeah, if your use case is to just deploy your manifests automatically whenever there is a change in manifest, or whenever there is a new image or on event based, just the Kubernetes deployment, go for it. But if your use case is little complicated and involves things like, one of the recent pipelines that I was working on was a customer wanted to be notified at each stage of their deployment process over a Jira ticket. So whenever they start a deployment, whenever there is a check-in, whenever build starts, they wanted a Jira ticket to be created, and all the status had to be tracked in the Jira ticket itself. As in, you build the code, you create a manifest, you create the Docker image, you deploy it to dev, then update in the Jira, and also notify them over Slack. And in a similar way, as your pipeline progresses, notify on other platforms and keep your Jira tickets updated. And also the automated rollbacks, like Spinnaker is does the job well, because when you deploy something, if you look at Jenkins, it deploys. What if the deployment did not go well? What if the pod is still in crash loop back off state, trying to survive? Then Jenkins doesn't do anything, because Jenkins' job ended at deploying stuff. But Spinnaker tries to monitor the health post deployment. Says if Spinnaker has this red black strategy built into it, wherein you deploy something using red black, and it will deploy the newer version, and only after newer version passes the health check, it will destroy the older one. If newer one doesn't pass the health check, old one is still kept, and traffic will still be routed to the old server or old pod. All right. So I think pod has come up now. Earlier, when we saw in the HAL config Jenkins credentials, we saw that these were strings, templatized strings. But now we see that the pass credentials are substituted automatically by your Vault injector. All right. So in the similar way, you can inject your Jenkins credentials, AWS credentials, and any other credentials for that matter into your Halyard pod and configure your Spinnaker. And Halyard pod need not stay on the system for a while. You might ask me, after substituting, they are visible to the user, right? But that's not the case. Typically, Halyard pod is destroyed as soon as your substitution is done, and Hal deploy apply is performed. As soon as your Spinnaker is configured, your Halyard pod goes away. So you don't have to worry that your credentials are exposed. So that's how you can externalize your credentials or any sensitive information to Vault, and making use of Vault injector, you can safely manage Spinnaker. Any questions anyone has? Or is there anything I can clarify a little further? Sorry, I think my voice is really coarse today.
Guys, do you have any questions for Abhinay so far? And I mean, you can put it in the Q&A section.
Oh. You guys, oh shit. What? I think you are not seeing my terminal. Oh my goodness. Just a moment. Someone should have at least informed that I'm not sharing my terminal. Yeah. So basically, I was showing you that I have a Halyard pod on which my Jenkins configuration is present. And my Jenkins configuration in here, these credentials were not there before I restarted my Halyard pod and Vault injected them. There were simple strings in here. Jenkins username, and for that matter, this was simply these strings were in this way. And when I restarted Halyard, what basically happens is I have my stateful set in which I have various annotations. Shalin, are you able to see my terminal?
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah.
Sorry, I think I did speak, but I wasn't mute. So I assist you.
Okay. So yeah, basically what we did is we added a bunch of annotations to Halyard stateful set saying fetch the Jenkins username and password from Vault. This is so when we add these annotations, right? Vault injector gets added as a sidecar container to the pod, and that container will be fetching the credentials from our Vault store, basically. So our Vault store has my Jenkins username and password in there, and I want to get those username and password to my Halyard pod. So when Halyard pod comes up, a sidecar will fetch the credentials from Vault, and my pod has a live post start hook in there. This post start hook, what it basically does is it will get the credentials and put them into my Halyard configuration file. And as soon as these things are substituted, and as soon as a hal deploy apply is performed automatically, this Halyard pod goes away because we don't really need that anymore. All right. So that's how we are kind of externalizing sensitive information to a secret store like Vault and handling and managing Spinnaker more securely. Yeah. Is there anything else you guys want to me to focus on? I'm okay to show you any general doubt with respect to Spinnaker as well, just because we have some time left out.
Guys, please raise your hand if you have any questions or just want to have a discussion. I'll allow you to talk and you can in fact pitch in.
So your pipelines can be event based. When I say event based, you can have your git commit trigger your pipeline, or you can have your Slack message trigger your pipeline, or in fact you can interactively communicate between Slack and your Spinnaker, so that let's say there is a judgment stage or approval stage that's there as part of the pipeline, and a notification needs to be sent to a specific your manager or your DevOps lead, and your DevOps lead can simply look at the status of the pipeline from Slack channel itself and say approve, and pipeline resumes from there, and goes ahead and moves forward. And you can integrate with any other what do you say, artifactories like Nexus, Artifactory, and you can make use of Customize or Helm to do your deployments, and you can make use of CloudFormation or your ARM, Azure Resource Manager, or you Terraform to create infrastructure directly using Spinnaker. And basically, it's like a one-stop shop. When I say one-stop shop, I really mean it. You don't have to really juggle between multiple cloud providers saying what is the status of my EC2 instance, what's the status of my Azure VM, because lately we have been seeing that companies are moving towards hybrid clouds. Hybrid also involves, not just cloud providers. People are maintaining on-prem servers and cloud providers simultaneously and trying to manage both of them. Spinnaker does that job really well. And yeah, I mean, you might feel that I'm kind of, talking as if I'm obsessed with Spinnaker. It's because of the flexibility and features that are offered by Spinnaker. Because I personally used Jenkins for 5 years before I started my Spinnaker journey. And once I started using Spinnaker, I thought I was writing huge scripts in Jenkins to get this job done. And Spinnaker does it just with a click on the UI. Let's say I want to create a pipeline. I don't have to really be comfortable with Groovy or shell script to write a freestyle job or my or Jenkins file. I don't really need to know anything in Spinnaker. So I just need to, click on add stage, choose which type of stage you want to use. Let's say I want to do Helm deployment. I can do Helm bake stage, use Helm 2 or Helm 3 for baking. What do I want to call the release? My release. Where do I want to deploy it? Where is my Helm chat? I can define my Helm repo here. What are the values that I want to override? I can simply define them here and click on add stage. Let's say I want another stage to be running my Helm stage and new stage to be in parallel. So I'll simply do add stage in here so that these two stages will run in parallel. And this is a cloud formation stage or Google Cloud build stage. So yeah, basically you have a bunch of stages available in Spinnaker already. You just need to use which stage is convenient for your use case and use it. Let's say there is no stage, whatever stage you are looking for is not there currently. You can simply write your custom stage very easily. You just need to know how to write a Kubernetes job manifest. That's it. If you know how to write a Kubernetes job manifest, you can create a custom stage in Spinnaker.
I think Abhinay, Rana had a question.
Yeah.
So, Rana, I have allowed you to talk.
So one thing is we have this complex Groovy script which we check in along.
Okay.
How do we make sure that whatever, so it's like we talk about GitOps, right? So whatever pipeline I have, I check in that along with my code. Now here, if it is all click, how do I make sure that it also gets checked in and it is versioned?
Yes. So that's a great question, Rana. That's the purpose we have. So now any pipeline is a JSON code in Spinnaker. All right. So when I say JSON code, when you create a pipeline, right? So this is pipeline code in JSON. You can create a new pipeline just with this code. Let's say, let me demonstrate that to you. Let's say I have this pipeline in here, right? This is in a different Spinnaker instance. I just want to take this pipeline and create it there. Configure, edit as JSON, paste it, update, save. That's it. So you can create pipelines using your JSON file as well, JSON code as well. You don't really need, and to answer your question, you can lock people from making the changes to your pipeline from UI. If you lock it, what happens is no one will be able to edit your pipeline from the UI. So when they want to make the pipeline change, they need to modify your JSON file in your GitHub or GitLab or Bitbucket or any of your Git repositories. and you can make your Spinnaker poll that Git repository and look out for JSON file. If there is any update to that JSON file, right, your pipeline gets updated here. Did I answer your question?
Yeah, this is good actually. So I think I had that question which I asked before, why Spinnaker? I can do everything by Jenkins. I think you very well answered that. The ease of creating a pipeline, which is, and that's what you showed. And
Yes.
still we can manage it with the Git, and that's what the value it brings in. And also it can poll the deployment itself, and then see if there's a drift in the drift in the deployment itself, and then it can possibly autocorrect it also.
Yeah, you can configure your pipelines to automatically roll back, or you can choose what you want to do.
Yeah, so that brings in the value what Spinnaker, because thing is, when we use Jenkins and kind of plethora of plugins which is available, almost every kind of plugin is available. So that is what people are like. So it's like very easy to bring up Jenkins. It's just a click away and
Correct.
Jenkins comes up. Need some kind of a groovy knowledge, but that is kind of okay. But the kind of visual thing, whatever you showed, and the kind of with ease we can bring up this pipelines. I think that's the differentiation, as you rightly pointed out.
And I even this GitOps style thing, right? We do have, in our enterprise Spinnaker, we added a lot of features around this GitOps style pipeline management, and automatically syncing your pipeline with Git repo, and automatically backing up your pipelines every day. Let's say for disaster recovery, right? Obviously, we don't want this GitOps style is mainly for disaster recovery, right? In case a Spinnaker instance gets destroyed, we need to bring up the pipelines and instance as early as possible, and that's all built into our enterprise Spinnaker. And you might ask me, when we lock it, how do I make the changes to the Spinnaker pipeline from the UI, right? So what folks do is they'll keep a very Chotu Spinnaker instance as a playground in their company, and they'll have a production Spinnaker instance. So any experimentation that they want to do, they do it in the playground, get the JSON, put it in the Git repo, and pipeline in production Spinnaker gets updated automatically. Yeah.
So one more question I have. So when we are in Jenkins, all the artifacts and all those things gets created, and it's all stored in a file system, and it keeps growing. And we basically plan for that kind of storage to basically see what kind of a growth I am expecting over here, and then that is all the infra capacity planning I do. There's nothing much I have to do. In here, how you will do the capacity planning? There's so many moving parts here, right? I mean, so yeah, I just wanted to know that.
So Spinnaker is a Kubernetes-based application. It's not like Jenkins running on a VM or running on containers. Of course, we can run Jenkins on Kubernetes using pods, but Spinnaker is a microservice architecture. So it has around 8 to 10 microservices, and each of the service takes care of a different task. You have a service for UI, you have a service for API gateway, you have a service to interact with your cloud, you have a service that will interact with Packer for baking your images, you have a service for running your pipelines. So you have various kinds of services for various tasks. All right. So when there is a load, let's say currently you are running 50 pipelines in parallel. Let's say suddenly 500 pipelines started in parallel. How does Spinnaker handle that many pipelines in parallel? So what happens is, when you will allocate resources to these pods beforehand, estimating what what are the resources needed to handle 500 pipelines. It's just the resources that you need to give to one specific pod. Or you can enable HPA, horizontal pod autoscaler. And basically, these two services are critical to run your pipelines. When there are 500 pipelines, you will simply enable HPA for these two services. And Kubernetes takes care of giving them the more resources.
So the constructor of constructs of Kubernetes itself will take care. So I can run the Jenkins outside this and point it within Spinnaker, and whatever capacity planning I need to do for Jenkins for holding these artifacts, that is another thing. This is basically whatever is required for running the service, and that is taken care by the Kubernetes constructs.
Correct. Exactly.
Got it. Thank you.
And this is all, again, when I said 8 to 10 microservices, I mentioned because a bunch of things in here are optional. Let's say you don't want authorization, you will not see this service installed. Let's say you don't want canary analysis, you won't see Kainta. So even keel is optional. So based on your requirement, you will see those services on the system. And you can externalize your data. You don't have to really keep all your data in the Kubernetes pod in the cluster itself. When I say that, Spinnaker integrates well with external entities like, MySQL database, or your S3 bucket, or your Redis for cache store. You can put them externally. I can put I can host my MySQL database on AWS RDS and connect it to Spinnaker. I can host my Redis on Elastic Cache in AWS and connect it with Spinnaker. I can put my artifacts in an S3 bucket. And the reason why we usually recommend people to put things externally is because our disaster recovery gets easier, right? When data is external, our disaster recovery gets easier. So yeah, that's how Spinnaker allows us to, bring up a new instance exactly from where it got destroyed or where it got crashed, in case there is any accidental destruction of that instance.
I mean, just a general question on DevOps. Like, I want the DevOps to be the easiest way it can be for the developers, for the people who are managing the build. If I just go from that point of view, if I say I have GitLab, so it's all one point show, right?
Yeah.
So I wanted that way, but this is like this is not one. But this is like I basically have composition of different tools coming in, and the tool itself is having composition of different services, so it becomes very complex. So just to ease the whole DevOps journey, I want it to be the easiest way. So I mean, so I just want to get your view on that. How can you make it so easy so that DevOps doesn't feel like a pain at all?
GitLab, I mean, I'm helping one of our customers in replacing GitLab with Spinnaker. So I can answer that maybe. Yeah. The problem with the GitLab is, creating a stage in GitLab is, you need skill. It's not an ordinary mortal's job. Or fixing things, broken things in GitLab, it's not ordinary mortal's job. So you really need skill to handle stuff in GitLab. And GitLab or Jenkins, they're both of them are doing it the same way. They are simply running scripts to get the job done. They are not really interacting at API level, or if you look at Helm deployment, or you're running a script from GitLab, you will write it. I'll write a huge YAML file, and whenever there is a code check-in, you might want a pipeline in GitLab to be triggered. even Spinnaker does the same thing, right? You will simply connect your Spinnaker with your Git repository, be it on GitLab or your GitHub or anywhere, and get the job done. Let's say you might, I understood your question. Why do we need so many tools? Why can't one tool do everything? Is that your question? To make the
Yeah,
DevOps
so
job easy?
anybody else want to? So yeah, that could possibly. So I want to make it easy for my DevOps journey. So if my DevOps journey itself is so complex, so 2-3 things which comes in.
Yeah.
One tool does everything. One tool has all the data. One tool correlate all the different stages. I mean, somebody raises a ticket, I have that in place. So it's all data in one place. I can correlate the whole journey in one single place. So it makes the whole journey of DevOps easier.
Yeah.
Now, if it's a desperate tool which is here, there, the data is not synced, then I have to spend so much of time integrating them. Then they itself, the complexity of different tool comes in. I mean, this is like, that is what I then basically take it up. And if there's not much investment which I have for DevOps, it becomes extremely difficult for me because this head counts also I need to look at.
Yeah.
How many people should be there in DevOps? How many tools I am trying to support? What is the kind of data which is going from here, there, the integration problems, maintaining that, it's quite a lot actually.
Yeah. I agree, Rana. So yeah, there are a few. Of course, Spinnaker is addressing a bunch of problems there. As in, let's say, you want to have one of the problems. We are seeing is you adopt one cloud and you recruit a bunch of folks. They will write your let's say you adopted Microsoft Azure. You have people have created pipelines on Microsoft Azure DevOps, and then because of my Azure pricing policy or something, you want to move away from Azure to maybe AWS or GCP, and then you will need to spend a lot of time and money in writing pipelines in a different platform and get the job done. So one of the problems is being addressed there by Spinnaker, which is you are getting cloud agnostic deployment tool, so that you don't have to invest time on writing your pipelines. At least you will simply move your workloads from one environment to other environment. I talked about Jenkins, Spinnaker using Jenkins as a build server. Spinnaker can also act as a build server and build your artifacts. It can do that. But the reason why we are using Jenkins is for a purpose, because Jenkins is good at that. If you ask me, why do we need Terraform? Why can't Spinnaker create infrastructure directly? We can make Spinnaker do that, but Terraform does it well. And Terraform is also, cloud agnostic. We don't really need to write cloud formation templates or ARM templates to create infrastructure in cloud. Terraform is making it cloud agnostic. So I might want to simply use Terraform and get the job done. So yeah, in the process of automating, in each area, we have got a specific tool that's an expert. So we are eventually involving multiple tools, trying to make our journey smooth. But yeah, in a way, as you rightly pointed out, we are making it complicated too. Yeah, and Rana, I think just in the interest of time and other audience, I think we can have a detailed discussion on the challenges that you are currently seeing, and I am in for a discussion. Shaleen and I will get in touch with you, and we can have a detailed discussion on the problems you are currently seeing, and if how Spinnaker can address them, or as a general DevOps guy, maybe we can talk about how your problems can be addressed using a bunch of tools, or using best practices in DevOps. Yeah.
Sure, Rana. So we definitely be in touch post this, and there would be definitely a recording which goes out for this. I hope guys, I think we have still 10 minutes, but if anybody has any more further questions, um, please do raise your hand or just put in those things in the chat or in the Q&A section, and we'll be able to answer. I have for the folks who are not there on the Meetup group, and I mean, interesting discussion we had really today. So I would invite you to our Spinnaker Meetup group. So this is I have put in the link in the chat. You can go directly there. You can start putting in your ideas or any comments around Spinnaker in general or DevOps, and we can definitely pick up the discussion over there. So we have more folks who are like-minded, and I think they would be able to answer those questions. Apart from that, there is a Slack channel as well. Maybe let me just put the link to that Slack channel as well in the chat, so that people can directly join in, specifically on Spinnaker. So yeah, I think I just made a mistake and copy pasting there. Yeah, this is the one. Yeah, that's it. So I see no questions in the Q&A section.
Last question I have. So
Yeah,
talk
Harness.
Is Harness a copy of Spinnaker itself?
It's an alternative to Spinnaker, I would say. It's also in the CD space, but yeah, it has got its own pros and cons.
No, is it not Spinnaker? It's not a copy of Spinnaker.
No, it's not a copy. It's a CD tool by other company.
All right, got it.
It's a proprietary tool. Yeah.
Thanks.
Okay, thanks, Ranajit, for being so engaging and asking all the questions. I hope, I wish that this can be an in-person discussion, much more interesting that way, rather than being in front of a laptop all the time. But I hope we are heading towards those times, not too far away in future. So I think for today, I think I can go ahead and close this discussion. Thanks everyone for joining. It's been a lovely session today. We generally have these meetups on the last Friday of every month. So do check in for the future meetups, and thanks for Arnab as well for putting a specific query around a suggestion around the next topics which we can cover. All your queries, suggestions, topics are most welcome. So thanks again, everyone. Have a lovely weekend. Closing on for now.
Yeah.
Bye.
Have a nice weekend, everyone. Bye-bye.
Thank you. Bye.
Thanks.
Thanks, Rana. Bye-bye.